For financial advisors, building a successful practice is hard, but making it continue to grow can be even more difficult. I'm joined today by two of the top advisors in the country. The #1 advisor in Nebraska, Ron Carson, the #1 financial advisor in South Dakota, Gordon Wallman. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you for having us, Matt.
Gordon, before I have a cage fight to determine which state is the best, my question to you is, tell me one thing you guys are doing to help your practice continue to thrive.
Well, one of the things that we continue to do is provide the highest quality service that we possibly can to our existing clients. And of course, what we're trying to do is do such a good job that we get referrals from our existing clients. And so that's one of the areas that we're really working on, is trying to develop new relationships from our existing client base.
Now, Ron, obviously not every advisor can be #1 in their state. Talk to me about what other advisors can learn from the success you guys have had in building your business.
Well, what we're trying to do, and I think every advisor needs to figure out, how do I differentiate myself? If you think about sizzle and substance, you've heard me talk to you about this. It's a substance what you really have, sizzle is what you claim you have. And the marketplace today, I mean, people that have a weak value proposition can sell until you get deep into it. You really don't know whether the value proposition meets the substance or not. So we're on a quest to Googleize that experience, and meaning that back when search first came out, you had a lot of different choices. You didn't know who you should use. But over time, the experience became so good and so trusting with Google, that's what you automatically did. And today, I do a survey, and about 99, someone occasionally loses Bing, but most people use Google. And that's where we need to get. We need to have, whether it's our access to our morning meetings, our trade notifications, the transparency we provide, really bringing people in and saying, we want to build up such a trusting relationship that there's no question that we're putting the client experience first, that we're putting your interests ahead of our own. I don't think Wall Street has done that at all. I think guys like Gordon absolutely have, but how do you separate them out? And so we need to distinguish ourselves to where we have that trusting brand that people know when they come, they're going to have a certain kind of experience, because the average investor doesn't know the difference in a fiduciary and a brokerage relationship, right? And so Googleizing that is something that we're really working on.
Now, Gordon, I know one of the things you guys did recently was in terms of adding talent. You added a COO. Talk to us about why that was such an important position in order to help continue growth.
Yeah, it was really a big decision for our firm. And I think once a firm gets to a certain size, that it becomes very complex, and I call it the ceiling of complexity. And things become so complex that it becomes very hard to grow. You're just constantly working in the business versus on the business. I visited with Ron and visited with other people as well, and felt like I needed to bring in a level of talent that I didn't have, and that we didn't currently have within our team structure. And that was somebody that could act as a COO and basically oversee everything, the operation side and the sales side. One of the things I learned early on in my career is finding out what you're good at, and I'm only good at a couple of things, and then delegating everything else to somebody else that has that skill set. And so I'm good at thinking big, I'm good at financial planning, but when it comes to implementing all the details, that's not for me to make it happen.
I just want to add, I think that some most successful advisors are, I remember we had that conversation, and I know you're already seeing the results of adding your COO and mentally seeing how it's going to free you up to do a lot of other things. And best practices for me and for other advisors is hire ahead of the growth. When you make sure you're getting the right human capital on your team, take the time, get the position. But if you find that, it's so hard to find a really good internal stakeholder, get them, keep them, and then have a compensation system that really shares the wealth so you can tie them in long term.
So Ron, when you think about hiring ahead of the growth, when you think about other advisors doing that, what are some positions they should have top of mind as we go into 2016?
Depends how big you are, but I think the biggest hurdle and complexity growing for the future is going to be compliance. I mean, that's been our #1 focus for the last 2 years. As a percentage of a department, our compliance department has grown faster, and people are hearing this going, it's the last thing in the world I want to hear Ron talk about is compliance. But the reality is, the stakes are getting higher. The difficulty in being compliant with all the rules is getting more complex and more difficult to do. But it really, or outsource it. Find somebody who can really have a true outsourcing team. But I always tell people, start with where you want to go. What's your core competency? What are the things you don't like to do, you're not very good at doing? And those really should be your first hires, and then continue to do it to where you've got nirvana, where you're showing up and you're having fun every day and you have other people doing all the things that you don't love to do.
So Gordon, when you think about where you need to hire, where you need to add some folks so you can grow, what are some key areas you're thinking about right now?
I know that I'm probably going to need another paraplanner to come on board. I know I'm probably going to need another service person to handle some of the capacity. I know I'm probably going to need another registered rep, and then I need somebody, that's our new COO, that can handle, managing all this, both on the operation side and the sales side. And so we're going to have to, put some money in building the infrastructure so that, as Ron said, build it first, and so that we can eventually grow into it.
So Ron, last question.
Yeah.
If you're a small advisor, what can you take from this? What can an advisor do to get started on this path to growth?
Well, have a game plan for it. And back to that small advisor, if you can't see a vision to get to some scale, and there's different numbers out there, but I believe if you can't get to $1 billion over the next 5 years, you should probably merge or sell, because I think when I'm looking at the emerging disruptive technologies that haven't even really hit yet because they're still in beta testing, it's going to really disrupt the smaller advisor unless they can harness some of these technologies. They're not inexpensive. I would be a part of a fortress, but there's no shortage of opportunity out there. You don't want to be consumed with trying to catch up and try to compete. So get to scale or associate with someone that can give you that scale.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Some great insights, and I think advisors learned quite a bit. For Investment News, I'm Matt Ackerman.